So our next speaker is Ilza. So going back to sinkholes, and she'll be giving her talk on geophysical investigations, dolomite-related sinkholes and subsidence. Thanks, Ilza.
Good day, everyone. I think first let's start looking at some sinkholes. As you know, it's something that occurs suddenly. There's no warning signs. The one here, must I show this thing? Where's? Board. This is 100-meter size sinkholes. These two are interconnected, 30 meters wide, 40 meters deep. This one is about 80 meters by 30 meters, more than 10 meters deep. This is a medium size. It's 4 meters diameter, 6 meters deep. All of these are on the West Rand, where you typically get very large size sinkholes. Oh, yeah. Okay, subsidence is a shallow enclosed depression that occurs slowly over time. And the one that I'm got here is a 40-meter diameter, which I will discuss as a case study. So what information do we need when we start look at sinkholes? Obviously, we need to determine this, the extent and the depth of the sinkhole, what causes the sinkhole, and the geological model that Tony already actually discussed, the blanketing layer, thickness, composition. Is there any problematic materials present like what, which is highly erodible and compressible? Presence of voids, and then bedrock, the depth morphology. Is there any cavities present within the bedrock? And the groundwater level, which Tony already measured. I'm going to skip a few. I've got too many slides. Okay, gravity surveys. When we work in a shallow dolomite environment, it's actually a bit more problematic than your deeper dolomite environments. The reason for it is because we get this narrow grikes that can be 0.5 meter, 2 meters wide. On a 10-meter grid spacing, which is the one on the right-hand side, this one, you can't really see so well. When I started opening up, I started encountering a lot of rock. So we said, okay, let's go for 2.5-meter grid spacing. You can actually nicely see the correlation with the Google image of the bedrock. This is the deep areas. The red is obviously all the rock pinnacles. Some areas is missing, but that was where they were still busy cleaning the excavation area. Okay, just a view from that. As you can see on the left-hand side, dolomite's very complex, and actually understanding dolomite is by looking at these pictures. So on the left-hand side, you can actually see the all the narrow slots and grikes. Here you can also get floaters in the dolomite. That's loose rock. It can up to be 4 to 5 meters sometimes. So you can't place a structure on that. It needs to be removed. Some voids in here. This is interlaid dolomite and chert with some voids just below the chert slabs. Okay, this is the first case study. So all 50 Damas rock subsidence. It's a 150-meter diameter by 1 meter deep subsidence. It's there for a very long time, more than 20 years, but unfortunately it was reactivated after a farmer drilled a borehole and started pumping water 60 meters away from the subsidence. So, but it had when we visited the site, we could see it's got some linear feature extending all the way through here. Obviously, it's on dolomite. This position of the site. So what we did is we did the gravity survey plus magnetics. This is the area. And then we did some resistivity lines. Because of this lineament feature, we want to see what is going on. could skip that one. This is the gravity survey. And as you can see here, this is where the road is and where we drilled. Got this long lineament feature here. Then you've got the lineament feature. Then there's this actually displacement of this going there. Gravity high. This is where the subsidence is located. So very, very steep gradient here. Just showcasing where the subsidence is located within that previous section. And here you can see the displacement area. Resistivity, the line 1 was done on the southern road servitude and line 2 on the northern side. But as you can see, very deep area here, going down all residual, then dropping down here. With some bedrock here, and you will understand it when you see the cross section. This is a duplicate because you couldn't read actually what's standing here, so I'll just duplicate so that you can read this. But what we encountered was, here's the subsidence. So roadfill, colluvium, Karoo shales. This is residual dolerite rock, a little bit of chert. This is white with chert. White is all cavities. Dolomite floaters. This is rock, but then you can see there's a cavity within, going through all the way through rock, again getting white with chert. Highly in light blue is highly weathered dolomite with the Babsfontein area is known for very, very large size sinkholes and a very deep profile. Okay, this is the gravity and plan view, and obviously the resistivity as cross sections. But there was a very good correlation between the resistivity low and gravity lows, as well with the highs. This is looking northwards. The next one is looking southwards, same data set. Once again, blue is gravity with resistivity, red with the resistivity. Yeah, that one I can skip. Because of that linear feature, we said, okay, let's look at extra data. So we looked at the airborne magnetic results. And as you can see, there is, feature running there. And that's the same orientation as what we encounter in any event with the gravity data. The magnetic data, this side, the high values is related to dolerite. Unfortunately, yes, we picked up the fence along the road. This is the water pipeline going to the pump. The border where the farm is was pumping water from. And there you can see some feature, but not that good quality data. And we did ground penetration radar, but not to investigate the subsidence, but to make sure there isn't any features running below the road. There was a dam on both sides of the road, this side and on this side. So we said, okay, somewhere there must be a pipe. Obviously, you don't want to drill into a pipe in such an unstable area. And if you look at this feature that was picked up in the ground penetration radar, this is duplicate, but there you can see. This is also previous collapse of the road. And then you can also see where the culvert was. There's a culvert actually going through. Okay, next case study is the M57 Boeing Road. It's just south of Cornwall Hill. So Cornwall Hill is known to have a very shallow dolomite bedrock environment. But then also, the engineers, while they were upgrading a road, they started noticing the road is subsiding. All the yellow crosses and lines are, the section of the road that's subsided. This is the Rand water pipeline running here, St. George's Hotel's water connection pipe. Obviously on dolomite. So we said, okay, because we think we're going to have a shallow bedrock environment, but same time we're close to Rooihoogte formation where you get very deep conditions. So we said, okay, let's go for 5-meter grid spacing gravity, which DP did. But made provision for very deep boreholes in case. And obviously the red is gravity highs presenting shallow dolomite bedrock. These are gradients. This on the side, and then your blues are your gravity lows, where you presumably will get very deep dolomite bedrock. As Danny said earlier, typically we anticipate getting cavities here, but you can also get on the gravity lows, you can get cavities. Schematical presentation. So, right layer works and colluvium, chert. The W is for what? This was also dolomite residuum white with some cyanide going through here. The V's are all voids. So dolomite floater, this is dolomite bedrock going down. And as you can see here on the side, again, this is where you got our shallowest voids. But I must say from here to here, the distance is only 6 meters, going from 3 meters down to 94 meters of a short distance. Okay. That's the end of my story.
Awesome. Thanks, Ilse. Are there any questions for Ilse?
I do feel.
Right, there we go.
I was going to say, I do feel there's a lot of pressure on DP in this. So everyone's like, DP did this. Either good advertising or stressful.
It's not so much a question as a comment.
Yes. Where are we?
There.
Oh, okay.
When one does unconstrained inversion in areas where you have horizontal conductive zones, generally the thicknesses of those zones are greatly overestimated. And that's something that people just need to keep in mind in general. Last year, I sent a test data set out to many geophysicists and geohydrologists, and they all sent back results which totally overestimated the thickness of the conductor.
I normally work with the geophysicist. You need to calibrate your data. It's a critical thing. When we work with sinkholes, we as a standard do it. Because I need to understand the model I'm working with for rehabilitation purposes. So the depth concept is critical.
I just wanted to ask, how can we help electrical engineers? Let's say we've got shallow dolomite rock and they want to estimate like trenching, because dolomite is very hard rock. So in terms of time and cost, so they don't want to sometimes like peg, because it increases the time of the project, and also blasting sometimes can damage them. Yeah. So how can we use geophysics, to estimate the amount of rock we have, let's say in a stretch of cable trench?
Yeah, like I said, that's a difficult one. I don't know. Lindsay must actually answer that one because excavatability. But yeah, I think your seismics will do help there. But not in a shallow bedrock environment. You've got too many variation there. Gravity is. But yeah, for us, like I said, I'm focusing on sinkholes. So I need to know where those grikes is. But for me, what's working is a very closely spaced gravity survey, but it's very expensive. And obviously, you can only do it for detailed design on smaller areas. You can't go and do it for a big area. It's not going to be feasible.
Okay.
Tony isn't allowed to ask me a question. I have all the answers already.
Just a comment on the previous one. We've been looking at using thermal infrared flown from drones for the shallow bedrock areas. We're still at a kind of infantile state in terms of using it. In fact, we may be so close to the ground that we can't see the forest for the trees. But it does seem to be showing some hopeful signs. So where dolomite is shallow enough, the thermal infrared might be useful.
Mm.
Hi, to get back to that question on how one attempts to do depth mapping of the shallow weathered zone, one potential way is to do passive seismic, not of the sophisticated type that Wayne was talking about earlier, but just laying out a profile of 3-component phones, leaving each one in place for about 50 minutes and recording, then doing, as Wayne noted, the HSVR approach. So you get from that a relative measure. And if you have one calibration point, you can turn that relative measure into a depth profile.
Okay. In dolomite, what I would just like to mention, I think Tony can back me here. Typically, your dolomite profile is a bit different than other rocks. You've got very competent material sometimes above, especially chert capping layer. That's sometimes the roof of the cavity. With very low velocity material below that. And once again, I need to ask the geophysicist the question, will you be able to see through that chert to get to that? Would you be?